Hello and welcome to coverage of Grand Prix Providence. Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth with Brian David Marshall, and we're here for the finals. Neal Sacks on the right-hand side of your screen. You got to take a look at the trophy sitting there too. There's Neal. He's playing Obs on aggro. He just defeated Eric Severson on his way here. On the other side of the table, Sky Mason. Now Sky's a level 2 judge. He's local to New England here. He actually judged last weekend at GP Charlotte. He won 2 buys at a Grand Prix trial a few weeks ago for this one and decided, I'll play.
Let's see what it's like on the other side of the table.
And here he is in the finals. He's got a bunch of judges over there that have finished their shift here rooting for him. So this is pretty awesome, and a nice start here from Neal Sacks. He's got that ward in the first tree. BDM, we've seen Neal do some just ungodly things with that card in the top 8.
Yeah, this has been the aggro, the mid-range, and the control for him in this deck. And immediately...
It's the aggro.
Yeah, immediately it's the aggro. Attack for 3 on turn 2.
This is always awkward. There's not a really clean way to designate what level it's at. Right now it's at a 3/3, but they're not +1/+1 counters. Those come later.
Yes, those have.
And they have, and so you don't necessarily want to use a dice on there. So anyway, Courser of Crew Fix for Sky Mason is his first play of the game. He's got Genesis Hydra on top of the library.
We've seen Sky be pretty aggressive with his Genesis Hydras. So there is Anafenza the foremost.
And another big finisher on top with Dragonlord Atarka.
I'm not ready for that yet.
Yeah, it looks like, with no mana acceleration thus far, peeling the old 7-drop there is not really what he has in mind. All right, so fetch land cracked and not bad. Whisperwood Elemental on the top, and he even gets to play his Planeswalker here, Xenagos. Make a Satyr token. Doesn't have an attack because Anafenza, not a bad blocker either.
No, not a bad. And we're going to see 8 power coming in right now.
Yeah, and I think we're going to see it kill Xenagos because he's got Dromica's command here. He can use that to take down Courser of Crew Fix.
And then let Anafenza fight the token.
Yes, and then let Anafenza fight the token. Then he can send one of them at Xenagos and even get in for a big hit of damage here, 4 damage.
He's going to Thoughtseize first, though.
I like that. Wow. That's a stacked hand for Sky Mason. He's got a pair of Genesis Hydra there. And remember the Whisperwood Elemental on top. Now,
you know the plural for Genesis Hydra, right?
Hydras?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah. Pretty normal.
All right, we did it. All right.
Takes the Xenagos.
And here's the command. You sacrifice the thing, and this thing fights that thing. Wow. So he actually gets to attack for 5 damage to Sky here, and the Warden of the First Tree is going to hit Xenagos for 4, which kills him. So really a perfect start here from Neal Sacks. Using up his mana, has 2 huge threats, has managed to keep Sky Mason completely clear on board. This also takes away the ability for Sky to actually play the Whisperwood this turn, and it means that Sky just has to miserably... Oh, he actually hits.
Well, he's
play the
very,
Hydra for
very
2.
Aggressive with the Hydra.
I mean, his hand is Hydra card he can't cast, so what else is he going to do? Nothing? And he actually hit here. Our Judge Felipe there pointing out the Courser's actually been exiled, so that can be important in some matchups. This one, probably not as much, but rules is rules, as we say. Take a look at Neal Sacks.
If he wins this Grand Prix with a San Francisco Giants hat, does it mean he wins a Grand Prix every other year from now on?
That's a good question. I mean, he really should just be wearing a Warriors hat at this point, right? I guess maybe he's transitioned since the basketball season's over. All right, another land here for Neal. This could be a close one, but right now Neal is firmly ahead. Attacking for a lot of damage here.
Seem that close.
Well, Sky's one untapped land away from landing a Whisperwood Elemental. And he's going to chump block. Down to 6 for Sky. That was another Sylvan Carry added. So he can play Whisperwood here to keep himself barely alive. It won't actually work.
Right, there's Obzon Charms in hand.
Yeah, times 2. And that's going to do it.
That's the game.
Yeah, because unfortunately for Sky, he had to tap his Sylvan Caryatid just to play the Whisperwood. And that was one quick game here. Neal Sacks up a game and real close to a GP title here. He's played in a couple of Pro Tours, has Neal.
Yeah, but this is his big. This is a big finish for him. Obviously, the biggest accomplishment in his career thus far.
That's right.
Super excited about it. Apparently, very excited about Standard in general. Big Standard player, according to our text reporter Adam Staborski.
All right. Well, it looks like that passion for Standard is paying off here as he has carved his way through this top 8. You can see that he had to defeat Raif Istvan and then Eric Severson on his way to the finals here. Sky Mason had a tough road to go also. Oliver too, but he had to beat Pedro Carvalho in the semis.
Pedro playing in his 3rd Grand Prix top 8 this season.
Yeah, he's been crushing.
Yeah. Just looking at sideboard stuff here. What do we think is going to happen for out of the board? I see a couple of four self-inflicted injuries.
Wounds.
From Reed's injury.
Oh, it does. It does. They got you, medium.
They got me. A couple ultimate price.
I think that's a cross between debilitating injury.
Yeah,
and
that's exactly it.
So I see a few cards here for Sky. 2 Hornet Nest.
Yes.
Those seem fantastic. He's going to want those. He does have 2 copies of Nylea's Disciple. Now, I don't know if he only brings those in against the red decks or if he does against these aggro decks as well. That can help get him some life back, but Neal Sacks doesn't really have the reach that a red deck has. You know, he's not going to get burned out. It's just the Siege Rhinos that can really get you. He also has 2 Arbor Colossus, which I think is interesting just because it's huge.
Yeah.
It just eats up most of the smaller attackers that Neal puts out.
And he can play it on turn 3.
Yeah, he can turn 3, turn 4 it, and it's just going to be like, look, you need to have an Obzon Charm or whatever to get it. Now, he might not want to put his eggs in that basket because Neal Sacks can quite easily deal with an Arbor Colossus.
You could see him bringing in just like 6 removal spells for green creatures.
Yeah, totally. And you know, Sky already has 3 Pulukranos, 4 Whisperwood. He goes up to Hornet Queen and Dragonlord Atarka. Hornet Queen's very good against Neal, assuming that he can buy enough time to actually cast it. So, you know, I would expect the Hornet Nest to come in for sure. I wouldn't expect much more than that to be guaranteed.
Yeah, we've seen Hornet Nest unsuccessfully tussle with Warden of the First Tree a couple times now today.
That's right, yeah. Weird little rules interaction.
Yeah, really, you know, I feel like that should be awesome.
It should be. But instead, you only have to assign 2 damage or, you know, whatever the toughness is of the Hornet Nest at that time to it. And the rest can be assigned to the player, meaning that the Hornet Nest only will produce a couple of tokens if a couple of tokens if the opposing creature has trample. And like you said, we did see that.
Yeah, it's come
up. It was like a 13
or
whatever at the time.
I mean, the number of times I've seen a Warden of the First Tree get 10 counters is equal to the number of times I've seen it happen here.
Yeah.
You know, I've seen it actually happen in Limited.
Oh, I've done it in Limited.
I killed it in Limited.
Oh, jeez.
Guy got a little greedy.
I was on the right end of it. Really bad draw. And so I just said, well, play one way and just dumped all my mana into this thing, and it turns out it held out.
Yeah. But, you know, just a card that you can play on turn 1 that is still useful for you on turn 17.
Yeah, and, you know, that's one of the big features of this Obzon aggro deck. All of its premier threats, that's the Fleece Main Lions, the Death Dealers, and the Wardens, are all good early threats that can deal a good amount of damage, and they transition quite flawlessly to the late game as well. And, you know, one of the problems that you'll play if you've played an aggro deck before is that sometimes you flat out. You have that initial wave, And then you're drawing 1/1s for 1 that can get a little bigger sometimes, or 2/2s for 2 with haste or whatever, and they're just not able to keep up.
Sure, we did a piece with Shaheen Sarani this weekend, who was playing a Tarka red deck that Martin Dang used to win the Pro Tour. And he's like, look, you know what, my trip ended up being that I couldn't get here until pretty late last night, early this morning.
Yeah, he drove all night.
You know, he has a hand injury that, makes sure, he's like, you know what, I just want to play a deck that I can play fast. And he talked about playing, how he hadn't really not played a red deck in a long time. And he said the real reason that he doesn't play those decks very often has to do with the amount of games that he loses to flooding out.
Yeah.
He's
It's a
like,
real problem for those
decks.
decks.
This is why I don't like them.
Yeah.
Because if I don't win within these 6 turns of the game, I'm just going to die.
Yeah. And you'll see that often with those decks. They try to mitigate that by running fewer lands. They'll run 20 lands or whatever with a low curve aggro
think
deck.
He was running 20 lands
Yeah,
in that
but the
deck.
problem is you do sometimes still draw it, and those cards just look so bad on turn 6. Now, you need to up the consistency for the early game, but that's where these Abzan aggro decks really shine. Now, what they give up is the consistency on the mana, right? You do have a lot of enters the battlefield tap lands, and you can have some clunky openers.
Foundry
where
Street
mono
Denizen,
red doesn't.
Foundry Street Denizen versus Warden of the First Tree.
Yeah.
Discuss.
Compare your 1-drops. One of them we saw attack as an 18/18 trample lifelink. The other one, not so much.
One of them we saw someone quit Magic Online in disgust in a game because he drew it on the 5th turn.
Yeah. All right, so it looks like they're almost ready for the second game of action. Neal Sacks 1 game away from the trophy. Sky Mason looking to stand in his way, and that is a lot of lands for Neal. The last 4 cards he peeled were all lands. If he's got 3 spells ahead of it, he probably would keep it. And it looks like he did. So here we go. Temple of Abandon to kick things off for Sky. And he is going to scry to the bottom here. So Neal Sacks just wants to see as many spells as he can here. I think his land situation is pretty well shored up. It looks like it's Death Dealer, Self-Inflicted Wound, Dromica's Command. That's Sky Mason there. And he's going to play a Rattleclaw Mystic and shift the turn back. So
Choosing between that and Caryatid.
now it's Neal Sacks' turn, and he says, well, Self-Inflicted Wound that thing out of here. He knows that if he can keep Sky Mason off of that hugely accelerated mana that his deck is capable of doing, he can help mitigate getting out huge threats early that are going to just be much bigger than what Neal can actually do.
But Sky is going to be able to play an Elvish Mystic and a Sylvan Caryatid this
Oh,
turn.
nice. Yeah, that's very good for Sky.
He also has the option of playing a Hornet Nest. Chooses not to play the Elf.
What was that about? Death
Chooses
Dealer
Death
for
Dealer,
Neal. Sky doesn't have any burn spells. I don't know. I don't know why I didn't play it. He does have one, right? Maybe we saw it something else. He had that Temple of Abandon untapped.
No, it's an Elvish Mystic.
Yeah,
right
no,
there.
you're right. Right in front. All right. Well, he's got some plan lined up for this thing. He still hasn't played the Elf. But he has a Hornet Nest down now. And this looks like it's going to be a Siege Rhino.
It is.
It's turn 4 after all.
Yeah.
All right, pass the turn back to you, Sky. And Sky finds a Genesis Hydra.
You get Genesis Hydra for 4 here.
If you had played the Elf, you could do it for another. And that
Yeah, you can do it
difference
for
between 4 and 5 is a pretty big deal.
Right, 5's the difference between getting a
Whisperwood.
Xenagos and a Whisperwood.
Yeah. 1 card deeper.
Maybe worried about Drown in Sorrow.
Yeah, Yeah, but see, that doesn't kill both the Caryatid and the elf. I thought about that for a second, but I thought, well, you let him 1-for-1 with your elf. Pelucranos, and now the alpha has appeared. So he's going to go for the Genesis Hydra next turn, assuming he doesn't get thought seized here.
There's Urborg.
Another Siege Rhino in hand for Neal Sacks. But the Pelucranos doing a good job of defending.
Smile on Neal Sacks.
Yeah, you know, Sky's pretty chatty, but very open. Like, he plays exactly like how you'd think a good judge would. You know, he was very communicative to his opponent when I was over there in the feature match area. He also had a lot of comments about, like, if a card got revealed, oh, that's pretty good. Or
okay.
Anything but that. All right, so it looks like Siege Rhino is going to grow and fight Pelucranos before Sky gets to untap. And what is this nonsense?
Warden in the first
A
tree.
Warden, okay. Is there an attack? No attack. So Hornet Nest really doing a good job of holding back Neal Sacks' onslaught here. And now are we going to see the 5/5? It's a little awkward because he'd really love to get a 6/6 Hydra down because it can actually tussle with a Siege Rhino. A 5/5 can't quite, but as opposed to doing nothing for the turn, it doesn't feel right. So.
Well, it looks like he also has a Whisperwood element.
Oh, he drew a Whisperwood?
Yeah.
It'd be tempting to just play the Whisperwood. But whatever, he's going for it.
And Xenagos.
Yeah, not bad, but he is going to have to shuffle some of the more potent options. Dragon Lord, a Tarka, and a Hornet Queen. But
they come back.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter where they're at in the library. It's just, you got to wonder if you wait a turn or two there, especially if you've got another decent play.
So makes a Satyr.
Yeah, the shields, they are up. He is now hiding between a 5/5, a 2/2, and an 0/2 with that makes a bunch of bees.
Point to the Urborg. Any questions you have about mana, they're answered by the fact that I have an Urborg.
Yeah, that is true.
It's a lot of mana he can make next turn.
Who? Sky
Mason. Assuming Xenagos lives. And
he can make 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Ugh.
Yeah, that's not accounting for somehow Hornet Nest getting in the way of something.
Yeah.
Which I don't think will happen.
I don't think so either, but Sky, right now he just doesn't have... Like, he's going to play Whisperwood next turn, but he's really dependent on the top of his deck to find him something excellent. And he's got a lot of excellent draws that he can hit. Dragon Lord of Tarka, another Genesis Hydra, the two to come to mind, also a Hornet Queen. Not that just playing Whisperwood isn't too bad either. Neal Sacks up a game here, but he's had enough. This could just be a double block as well. Genesis Hydra and Satyr can block. It's risky. If the Hydra were to get killed by, Hero's Downfall or whatever, then Sky would lose his Satyr token and he would take 4 damage. All right, so he's going to block the Satyr. And does he... Looks like he's going to go 2/2/1, or 2/2/2, I mean. Okay. There we go. He's going to put 2 Hornets up. And what did Sky Mason draw for the turn? Like you mentioned a minute ago, BDM, he's got 10 mana available if he wants it. Or he's actually got more than that. He's got 12. He's plussing. Oh, he found Dragon Lord of Tarka on the top. Wow. Now he has to be careful how he does this.
Right, so he targets both of them, splitting it up because he doesn't have the mana to pump both.
No, so 3/2 is fine. 3/2 split, and that does ultimately get rid of it. And in the same turn, with that 12 mana, he gets to cast Whisperwood and attack with Genesis Hydra and a insect. That was a good draw.
Yep.
That was a hell of a draw there for Sky Mason.
Yeah, it's like, what? How was your turn? Well, I got a dragon, a Whisperwood Elemental, and a Manifest.
Yeah. Also killed one of my opponent's best threats. How are you doing? Not 100% sure exactly what just happened here.
They backing something up, making sure that there was sufficient mana for Sky to do what he did.
Yeah.
Where are we now?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
Played a Whisperwood, manifested.
Looks right to me.
Killed his Whisper of the Wilds, and we are in Mayan steps since he hasn't done anything yet.
Okay. I'm going to convert that.
All right, well, we'll just let them make sure that everything gets sorted here. But by our count in the booth, he was good on 12-7 for Dragon Lord Atarka, and then follow up 5 mana for Whisperwood.
Yeah, it should have.
I just assumed deck was the right way.
No,
We're trying to figure out exactly what
The Rhino should have played.
What, the Dragon Lord Atarka?
the issue is here.
Oh, sure. And they could just be counting up that mana again, but I have it as Insect, Insect, Hydra, and then 2 mana creatures for 5 from
Right.
some Xenagos. Then tap them is 7,
And then 5
and then 5 more.
Should have played. Last turn when it attacked, it was only blocked with a Satyr token.
Oh, this.
Satyr and points.
Oh, so what we have here is the Siege Rhino in the bin. Of course. Why did it die? Right? I think a lot of people
Right, Hornet
just
Nest
assume that
doesn't
Hornet
have-
Nest has some Death Touch or
Right, it does
whatever and
not, yes.
doesn't have any power or Death Touch. So that makes a lot of sense now. Why they're trying to go back here, because the Siege Rhino just shouldn't have died. Neal must have just put it in the graveyard. I didn't even notice.
Easy a 10, you have Siege Rhino. And it'd be tapped in the counter.
I mean, it was a 5/6.
Yeah.
It took 2.
Everything else is the same. Just hard.
So this is,
I support it back.
you know, Judge questioned the clock here about, can you rewind? And they're going to have to sort that out down in the feature match area. So,
It's like, I might have shot that. Oh, he couldn't even shoot the Siege Rhino. It wouldn't matter.
right.
Because that backup involves
All right. It looks like that's head judge Kevin Dupre in the background there. You'll recognize him if you watch Pro Tour streams a lot. He also comes over to the States. He's from France. He comes over to the States for
the manifest.
head judging GPs quite often as well, and does them also over in Europe.
You did not know the top card.
And this should be a pretty clean one, I think, from his perspective. I don't know what the ruling is, but they're going to get clean information. I mean, Sky Mason's a level 2 judge himself. He's going to be able to know exactly what, how this is going to work, and Neal's going to say, yeah, well, this is what happened. All right, so, I get the vibe that they might be thinking, okay, well, if we rewound, what would happen? Like, how far along have we gone here?
Sure.
So we'll let them get it all sorted here. It would be nice if Neal could get his Siege Rhino back, in the interest of getting a good, clean, fair game going here.
So they are rewinding this game.
Does
today.
look like it. I don't know what the criteria are, for like what is rewindable and not.
Oh, sorry.
The Death Dealer should be on tap, though. I don't know if that actually is a thing here. Yeah, because the way it went was the Siege Rhino attacked, and then it was over to Sky Mason, who drew his card for the turn. It was Dragon Lord Atarka,
Right.
and then he went through the motions on casting Atarka. It would, the main difference here is that it just could change what Sky wants to target with his Dragon Lord Atarka. It doesn't actually hit the Siege Rhino in this case, though,
Right,
so I
Siege
think it
Rhino's
just
on
ends up
6.
being the same thing anyway, except for that Neal gets his Siege Rhino. Which, I mean, if Kevin can reproduce this thing, that seems great. That is what the board state should have been. So.
It's like rewinding a turbo match.
Easier said than done.
Did I miss any action that we need to cancel now?
No, this was as it was.
Then we can shuffle this.
Looks like they've determined that a shuffle is in order here. think they rewound it. I think they got it right here, too.
Playing in finals are games. So
We are in York. We're in York.
Yep. I still. So actually, so
And
this
then
is
we
on
need
tap and not on tap.
Right.
Yeah, that's
Mana is
So
untapped.
I put a card at random back.
Death Dealer's untapped.
So I actually go back to 60
yeah, 'cause you didn't pay
because
for
I
it.
paid 100.
Alright, so
Get the life totals right.
Okay. One of them needs to go back on top of the library. That's going to be the draw step for Sky. In this case, it doesn't actually matter.
we're gonna do the same thing.
It was even correct. All right, so up to 4, and let's rerun this thing again. So Dragon Lord Atarka, same exact play. Good. All right, so they did end up rewinding it, and it looks like it was pretty clean here. The Siege Rhino is going to be on the battlefield. It's going to stay there, too, which has obviously big implications for how this game ends up going.
Yeah,
It would
because
have been a real
Sky's,
shame.
Sky's only at 11 here.
Yeah, he's only at 11, but he also gets to follow up with his Whisperwood.
Whisperwood, attack for 5.
And
Does-
he's going to go ahead and attack for 5.
But doesn't attack with 2 wasps in this case. Or
Yeah.
one of his 2 wasps.
Yeah.
Then steps.
And now
Manifest.
gets to manifest a creature. Okay.
Okay, so we're back to business here, and we are back caught up to real time as Sky Mason, again, with that great turn from him. I mean, he still got to play Dragon Lord Atarka, Whispered Elemental in 1 turn, and he passes it back to Neal Sacks, who is back to full power with his Siege Rhino, and finds Sky Mason at just 11 life.
So in comes Siege Rhino.
The Phantom Siege Rhino is going to
Yeah.
battle.
The ghost of Siege Rhino walks again.
Yeah. And it looks like Sky is going to block with the Manifest and a Hornet here.
Manifest a Hornet and a Dragon Lord Atarka.
And an 8/8 trample. This double block is interesting because even if Atarka were to die, at least the Siege Rhino goes down too.
Yep.
Wow. So Sky Mason gets to trade off a Hornet for a 5/6 trampling Siege Rhino.
Yes.
With no downside.
Yes, he does.
Like he doesn't take any damage on
No,
the
he
trample
does
side
not.
either. Jeez. Nice block. I don't know if I could bring myself to trade off the Rhino for the Hornet there.
Just stubbornly do all the damage to the.
No, I don't know if I could attack there.
How many cards you got in your hand? Oh yeah, there you go. Might as well target myself. Well, I can't. It's an opponent.
So another Siege Rhino here for Neal Sacks.
You tell yourself, well, I'm not doing it.
It happened at Charlotte. It was one of
Sky Mason falls down to 8, but that's a pretty safe 8 here. Even both other Siege Rhinos from Neal wouldn't get him dead. So he's relatively safe here, I think.
And another Warden in the first tree.
Okay. Which he can make a 3/3. So that's going to do it for Neal Sacks as far as
A hand.
his hand. Yeah, he has now deployed all of his threats, and he's facing down some pretty mighty ones his own. And incidentally, Neal finds himself at 11, so he's dead in a turn anyway. Dragon Lord Atarka can rumble. Only 3 blockers back. One of them a 3/3, another one a 2/2. Even though the Warden's not a 3/3 yet, he can just pay the 2 mana to make it such. Is he doing the math? Is he just
He's
dead here?
considering. Yeah, he's considering the attack with
Yeah, I
everything.
think he's just got him dead
Yeah.
here. Yeah, the haste from the Satyr token, of course, is enough to get it done. After taking 8 in the air, he only
Yeah.
had, or 9 in the air, I should say, he only had to sneak in 2 extra damage.
Right.
And with an empty-handed Neal Sacks, Sky Mason put the math together and was able to finish him off. So a shake of the head for Neal. Pretty good draw from him, but Sky Mason did what he's trying to do. He went over the top. That drawing that Dragon Lord Atarka was just huge there. His turn was going to be Whispered Elemental go, and instead it was Dragon Lord Atarka and Whispered Elemental
Yeah.
go. And that was it.
Literally and metaphorically huge.
Yes.
So good.
That's
So
the thing. Like once it resolves, once it's wreaked its havoc, it's still an 8/8
Yeah.
flyer.
It's so easy to overlook that too, because you think, yeah, well, it just dies or whatever, but you got your value. But it's like the times when it doesn't die, they do. It asks a very poignant question. There's no doubt about that.
So matches evened up at a game apiece.
A quick browsing of deck lists from both.
See a security
players.
guard wander over. He's like, what's this? Huh.
What is this
I hear there's some
interesting
pretty good
looking game?
prizes here.
Yeah.
How much are they going to win? Of course, Rashad points out that the security guard might just be like, so these are the two guys why I can't go home now.
Actually, now that I look at the security guard, I think you might be right. He's got that look on his face. How many more card games can they play? You have no idea, buddy. We can go all day.
Yeah, don't look to your left where there's a Super Sunday series still going on.
Yep. And don't look to us after we're done packing up the show and we're drafting somewhere or whatever.
Yeah, hopefully that somewhere will be the hotel.
I kind of got my eyes on that German restaurant.
Yeah.
Again. All right, so we're going to get one game to decide it here, BDM. Sky Mason versus Neal Sacks. Two up-and-comers, relatively unknown on the pro Magic scene here.
Sure.
And looking to make a name for themselves.
Who
Going to see
do
them both at the Pro Tour.
Who do you like in the final game?
Well, so Neal's going to be on the play, which gives him a big advantage. I generally think that this is very close. We've seen Neal consistently apply good pressure and absolutely pound opponents who stumbled. I mean, if you keep a landlight hand, he is going to kill your mana creature and then kill you. That said, Sky Mason has been able to turn the corner pretty consistently. He did need a big draw there to really hammer that one home, but even just the Whisperwood would have been pretty good. I'd say slight edge to Neal Sacks just because he's on the play.
Sure. Thoughtseize into Warden, into Death Dealer, into...
Yeah. And we haven't seen much Thoughtseize out of Neal. How many is he playing?
He has 4 main. I don't know if he's sided them out for
I
any
would
reason.
assume you do keep those in. I mean, when you have these ramp decks and they go
Yeah, I
like
can't
elf,
imagine
carry
taking them out,
added,
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
then you take away their big threat, especially if you can take away, a Genesis Hydra, any one of these card advantage cards
Right.
for them, an Atarka.
Right, enjoy all your ramp.
Yeah,
I will take your big fatty.
exactly. See the GP Providence trophy just sort of sitting there.
Waiting to go home with somebody.
Find its new everlasting home on somebody's mantle.
It looks like both of these players were in Charlotte last week. See Neal Sacks rocking the Grand Prix Charlotte deck box.
God, I want one of those.
Yeah,
That is
same.
so cool. Yeah, Star City made that one, and before it was like a brainstorm one or whatever.
Yeah.
Jeez, those are cool. Yeah, Sky Mason has the Judge sleeves and the Judge box over there too.
Yeah, there's no like 2 riffles and that's good enough. This is everything.
We're getting deeply
It's
random
like
here.
in the pages of history as a GP winner.
Yeah, you gotta get your camera time in, I suppose, even if it is shuffling. All right, but it does look like they're just about ready for this third and deciding game here in the finals. Neal Sacks has had some of the more exciting games to get here.
Oh, I don't know. I love watching Sky's deck unfold.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been really fun to watch. I love the Green Red Devotion deck. I love Nykthos. I love Genesis Hydra. And I think again going back to it, his willingness to just Hydra for, a Sylvan Caryatid or for a Radical Mystic for whatever, it's been really fun to watch too. He's just like, look, my card Yes, I have this fantasy of what this card will do.
Did you know that during
The reality
playtesting,
is,
Shahar Shenhar once Genesis Hybrid for 1?
did he really?
Yep.
Did he hit?
Of course. Shahar Shenhar. Of course he did.
It was a rhetorical question.
He had a bunch of Genesis Hydras in his hand and wasn't going to be able to cast them. So he insisted that that was the right play, and he even hit. All right, 7 opener for both players. Hopefully get some keeps here, too. It would be a shame.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
And
nice
I love
handshake.
that handshake before the final game here. And land. Yep. It's a lot of land.
Good-looking cards,
It's a
but not the
five-lander?
opener that
That is
Sky
a slow
really
one.
wants.
I am curious to see if he keeps this, especially. Well, so let's see what Neal does, because that's the most important one here as he's on the play. Whoa, that's not the look of somebody who's in love with their opening hand. He's got the rally hat on, but he's not keeping it. And I'm really curious. Has Sky kept?
No, he's thinking.
Because that is not an obvious keep at all. If he doesn't do anything until turn 4, he's probably dead. Like Neal Sacks, his deck can come out and put a whooping on
Yeah,
you.
he really needs to have like a carry added in the top 2 cards of his deck.
Yeah,
or-
and I mean, and the
or-
interesting thing too is that his turn 4 play is effectively a 2/2.
Right.
Right. Like that's the board effect off of turn 4 Xenagos is a 2/2, and he's kept.
He has, yep.
Okay,
setting
I mean, he's
aside.
got draws.
He's like, I'm in.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Like he's got draws here, right? It's just if he doesn't hit those early drops, if his first draw is a Tarka, it's like tick-tock. Keeps a slow 5-lander. Now, he also could have partially based that decision off the fact that Neal is mulliganing.
Sure.
He's on a maximum of 6 cards now at this point.
Well, the Twitch chat is most definitely probably
Yeah, I mean, if Neal has one of those really nice 6-carders where he gets to go like 2-drop, 2-drop, 3-drop or whatever.
Yeah, just a hand with like Warden of the First Tree and Fleecemane Lion.
There you go. And like a removal spell.
Yeah.
That's 3 of the cards. The other 6 are lands or anything. I don't even care. Pick your poison. As long as there's a couple of lands in there. And he could be off to the races very quickly here. All right. Now, if he has to go to 5, then Sky's hand starts to look a lot better. So let's see if Neal Sacks can keep on 6 here.
6. See a Fleecemane Lion. See a Dromicus Command.
Is this the one for Neal? He's in the tank. We've passed the threshold for snap keep. Man, if he could see Sky Mason's hand, he'd know he's going to get some time here. He's going to mulligan.
Wow.
Gotta go
Yeah,
down
I couldn't
to
see how many
5.
lands he had in there, but
Couldn't either.
it was greater than 0, but probably not 2.
Well, this is going to be a sigh of relief for Sky Mason because it means that the likelihood that Neal Sacks has that super fast draw is lower.
Sky's still going to give him time to claw back into this game with that hand.
Totally. But Sky's hand is nice. Like, if he's not under massive pressure, especially if he just finds like one ramp spell.
Sure.
He gets that Whisperwood down a turn early. That is a particularly demanding card.
All right.
All right, well, we've reached another big threshold here. He's going to 5, which is, that's bad news
Yeah.
for Neal. But going to 4 is disaster. You could win on 5.
We've seen it happen.
Oh, yeah. Lots of times. I mean, he's given up a lot of percentage by having to go to 5 here, but what are you going to do? All right, let's get a keep here for Neal. Okay, one more land, please. That has to be a land. It wasn't. He's going to go to 4.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a 1-lander, and he couldn't cast any spells in his hand. He had 2 double black spells with a forest. That's brutal for Neal. Sky Mason getting a little chatty over there. He's definitely feeling some relief. But you mentioned it a minute ago. I mean, he's not going to pound Neal here unless he draws like running small spells.
Right.
So Neal could have a chance to claw back in, but his chances of winning severely diminished. At least the players are still having fun. You can see the bulldozer, Matt Mendoza laughing. The
Don't feel
judges
too
are
bad
laughing.
for Neal. He's second place at GP.
Nah, man, I do feel bad for him. This is no fun at all.
No. But I'm saying, great weekend.
Trophies sitting there.
Yeah.
I think in like 2 days you could sell me on that.
Sure.
Okay, I did a good job.
Just remember, there's people at home right now who be like, I would.
Yeah, fair enough.
I would,
trade my best
do
card.
something horrible
Yes.
to be second place at a GP.
That's a good point. And he did qualify for the Pro Tour,
Yeah.
getting a bunch of money.
And he has the opportunity he has the opportunity to win with a 4-card hand on camera.
He does. He totally does. And he is going to get a little bit of time here, most likely, to do it. I think he's. I'll see what he's got here.
Land,
I know people
Warden
that
of the
always
first tree.
keep on 4. All right, he's got 2 lands. He's keeping it. No way. Wow, Elvish Mystic off the top for Sky Mason. That's about the best draw he could get.
Yep. Gets in for 1. Plays
Wow.
a temple, scries.
Almost put it on top, but he decided on bottom. Passes a turn back.
Land number 3.
All right,
There's
here's
Anafenza.
on turn 3. Oh, that elf, though.
Here comes Xenagos.
Yep. This just unlocked this whole entire hand. So there's Xenagos. Although I will say that Anafenza gets to pressure Xenagos in a pretty meaningful way here.
I took the one. It should be 2 damage. I just marked it. Thank you.
All right, Neal draws his card for the turn. I believe it was another land. Attack Xenagos. Block.
Yep.
All right, so Sky Mason treading water here.
He scries. He is holding.
A Siege Rhino and a Sandstep Citadel is his hand.
Okay.
It's not bad.
It is not bad.
He gets to windmill a Rhino next turn. He's going Anafenza, nothing, Rhino, which is pretty good. But here comes Whisperwood most likely. No. And Ilea's Disciple did come in out of the board. It was an aggressive enough deck from Neal that Sky decided he wanted this. He's going to gain 4 life here off of it.
Here comes Siege Rhino.
Thump. Sky's going to fall back down to 21.
No attack here. You clearly just trade Disciple and or token for
Yes.
Anafenza there.
By good, I meant offset.
He has a Nykthos.
And a Courser.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, he's going to be able to make a lot of mana soon. He would prefer not to draw that Sylvan Caryatid on top. It doesn't look like he has any way to interact at the moment. Oh, he does. He can manifest it by playing this right now by using his Xenagos to make mana. So not only does he get the manifest, but he gets that pesky Caryatid off the top of his library so that he can search for something better.
Saw Sky Mason doing this last round. Plays his manifest face up.
Yeah, he's courteous in that way. And it looks like Sky is going to be able to capitalize on A, that elf, and B, the fact that Neal had the mulligan down to 4. As you can see, his board state is just explosive here.
And he can make 8 mana off this Nykthos next turn.
Yeah, and Neal says, you know what, I got no other choice here. It's time to rumble. Neal has 2 unknown cards and 5 mana available. All told, a pretty good draw for Neal. It's just hard to fight when you don't have the tools.
Okay, puts Courser of Krufix and Satyr in front of Anafenza. Puts Manifest.
He's still thinking.
Oh, okay.
If he puts all of them in front, that is enough to take down the Rhino.
Right.
And this is enough to trade Anafenza for a Courser of Krufix. So he's basically saying, look, you don't have 2 removal spells here. If you get me in one of these transactions, I can accept it, but at least the other thing's going to happen. And it turns out he didn't have any removal spells. So damage this, damage that. Kill these. Those get exiled. Flip my top card of my library back over, though it looks like he's just going to wait on that. Whoop. Is there still a Courser?
No, there's no
No,
Courser.
there's no Courser. Oops. Thumbs up. Thank you, Sky. I don't actually know what happens here. I guess it's just no. It's just Neal just gets to know.
So how many times did you scry? Scried twice.
Don't think it's super relevant.
And I put 2 on the bottom.
Anyway, if we're unsure, we're gonna go with max number because random being random, even if there's one that doesn't
I'm assuming this is Kevin Dupre's hand here.
So we are certain that we do not know the top one, and there has been no tension.
I'm certain of 1. He says 2. I can do it.
That doesn't check. So we can shuffle the random position.
First player to
I think they were talking about how many
Yeah, they're
cards
just
have
trying to
been
figure out how many
scried to the
cards are
bottom.
scried in
Yeah.
terms of shuffling the deck.
18 rounds.
Apparently, the ruling is that the deck is going to get shuffled here. So, no reveal. Okay, there's I think 2 cards maybe at the bottom that are that those were scried to the bottom, so they're
Okay.
supposed to be there.
Got it.
All right, another minor hiccup here, but we're on our way again. And yeah, Sky Mason looks poised. Looks like he's about ready to go here. He's managed to clear the board from Neal Sacks and create a bunch of advantage. 4, 8, 9, 10 damage.
Yeah.
That's half your life total, Neal. He's kept the card on top as well, and I can't imagine that there's anything that Neal can pull here. You know, he's the aggro deck. It's not like he's playing sweepers.
Right. Doesn't have anything like a Crux of Fate.
Right. If he did, it would actually be pretty good here.
Yeah.
Look at it. It's all tokens, manifests, and the Whisperwood. But even then, Xenagos is still just hanging out, ready to clean up the mess. So, plus whatever Sky decided to keep on top of his library.
I did remember until
It's going to get manifested.
Oh. Okay.
Maybe a Drown in Sorrow.
Yeah, they're all just stopgaps. I mean, Drown in Sorrow, you sure take 6. You're at 2.
It's not
good
dead.
news. Not good news. So Sky manifests an end step here. Neal Sacks has cracked a fetch land, but this might be his last draw step.
So
here.
Neal's mustered a little bit of game here.
Yeah, I mean, look, he
From a
played
full
on
card.
Offenza, skipped a turn, but then played a Siege Rhino. It was a thing, but he was just so far behind from the get-go.
Ah, that elf.
That
Elvish
elf.
Mystic was so huge
That
for
elf was
Sky.
big.
So there could be the trigger. So there could be, but yeah, but there was no proof that the trigger was missed, and we have a rule that states that triggers
Very intense shuffling.
So looks like Sky missed his Whisper Wood trigger maybe, but. All right, Neal Sacks passes the turn back. Land off the top here.
Really kind of a handful of nothing here.
Yeah,
for-
that's it. That's going to do it. Sky Mason is our champion here in Providence. He makes sure to reveal his morphs like a good judge would. And, wow, I bet you he's glad he didn't judge this event.
Yeah.
He